Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I have a fun video for you guys where I'm going to talk about one of my literal favorite authors of all time, Sarah J. Maas. So, if you're anything in the world of book talk like me, like you've heard of Sarah J. Maas and her three acclaimed series, A Court of Thorns and Roses, Crescent City, and Throne of Glass. And if you haven't, I'll give you a brief little rundown just so you kind of get the idea of what her books are about. She writes high fantasy, and her first series, ACOTAR, or A Court of Thorns and Roses, is about a human girl named Farah who is basically thrust into this fey fairy realm in order to save her family. And then you've got Throne of Glass, which is about a teenage assassin named Selena Sardothian and her journey kind of undermining a tyrannical king. And then lastly, her most recent series is Crescent City, which is about a girl named Bryce Quinlan, who is a half human, half fae civilian that is just trying to protect her city. And that's basically it with no spoilers for any of those. I'm here to kind of talk about the revolution of reading that has come along with Sarah J. Maas and her books, at least in my opinion. I know a lot of people, like my friends and people I've seen on social media, have talked about how this woman has really re-sparked their love of reading. So, what about her work has kind of led to this revolution of reading? So, I think it's the way that she has kind of revolutionized this romantasy genre. And romantasy, if you're wondering what that is basically a romance and fantasy combination, kind of exactly as the name sounds. I think the way that she has catered this genre more towards an adult and young adult audience rather than like teens and, you know, middle schoolers has really propelled her and her career forward. And I also think that it has a lot to do with TikTok and social media, like boosting her and recommending her books. Romantasy is a genre that Mass specializes in, and the escapism that her books offer is a really profound reason why her audience loves it so much and just keeps coming back for more. She sold over 38 million copies of her books in English alone, and that's not including the other 38 languages that the book has been translated into worldwide. Every single one of her book series has spent time on the New York Times bestsellers list, and she shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon. Speaking of not slowing down, her publisher Bloomsbury have announced that she's contracted with them for at least 6 more books, so she's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I plan years down the line.
So how many books do you know?
I know the next 4 books that I want to write, and so they're kind of like in like this taxiing position.
Here's the kicker. It's not just the genre that's elevated her book series, and a little PSA, there's going to be some spoilers mentioned from here on out for her book series, so if you haven't read it and you don't want to risk it, go ahead and stop watching now. So, this is a big spoiler for basically all of her book series, so if you haven't read them all, don't listen. Click off the video immediately. Okay, basically, Sarah J. Maas has created something called the Maasverse by her fans, and it's essentially a multiverse where all of her book series are existing together in the same, I don't want to say the same world because they're all on different worlds and different timelines. It's kind of complicated. Think MCU. Yeah, so it's something like that, though, where they're all existing in the same universe, the same galaxy, if you will. Speaking of the MCU, they're known for doing this and doing it well. So I would say that that's a good thing that this author is tapping into is the ability to draw readers in by interlocking their series like across book series so their favorite characters from each different series can interact with each other, and it just provides a lot more opportunity for fans to be involved. It also is a great marketing strategy in my opinion because you're picking up a book that you might not have ever picked up before because you love the other one and want to see how the story unfolds in the other universe. It also gives fans like the ultimate reading experience because then it gives them opportunities to look up Easter eggs and try to figure out what little things are like connecting or relating across book series. And while Mass has brought this concept of multiverse in the book industry mainstream, she is not the first person to do it, as many other authors like Rick Riordan and Brandon Sanderson have kind of done this as well in their respective series. Let's kind of talk about TikTok's influence and why that's contributed to Sarah J. Maas's success. During COVID, Book Talk emerged in full force and is still going strong. If you look up the hashtag Book Talk on TikTok, you will find literally millions and millions of videos. The platform's popularity gave this very niche interest a way to spread and grow and make a community. Sarah J. Maas was really popular before Book Talk, but I would say this platform really exploded her career and put a lot more eyes on her and her work. Publishers Weekly reported an 86% increase of growth in her book titles, new and old, in 2022. Maas's rise to popularity gave way for many other romantasy authors to kind of shoot up the list, including Rebecca Yarros and her series Fourth Wing. Events like those when Harry Potter came out are now back and in full swing. Like, I remember growing up, I didn't see a lot of my favorite authors on the Today Show or hosting big events and midnight release parties. I'm sure they existed, but it just wasn't talked about as much. But now it is. People who haven't read in years are now reading these books, picking them up, and even branching off into other genres, like really sparking the love for reading back in a whole generation. She, along with other authors, are creating communities where people can thrive, make friends, travel, host events, attend events, and do all these other fun things together that maybe they weren't able to do before. Me personally, I attended a fantasy ball when I was studying abroad in London, which was based off of Sarah J. Maas's ACOTAR series, and it was called the Spring Court Ball. Like, that's crazy, and it was so much fun. Overall, Sarah J. Maas has turned more people into readers, and she's going to keep doing so for the foreseeable future. She has revolutionized the romantasy genre, and whether you're interested in her books or not, it goes without saying that she's a very talented author who's here to stay. You should also check out some of her books. I definitely recommend her, and I would probably start with ACOTAR. I think it's a great way to dip your toes into the high fantasy genre if you've never read something like that before. Well, that's kind of all I wanted to touch on today, so thank you guys for watching.